Live from the BoD studios around Wisconsin, it is Playin and Slayin, episode 74. We made it almost to 75. So I guess this becomes the last episode. In this episode, we are going to be sharing our adventures over the last month-ish time frame at three illustrious conventions. Dragonfall, where Troy participated in some Warhammer 40,000. BriceCon 2, The Reckoning, up at his home in Appleton, where we played some games. And then Madison's own Gamehole Con, which was just this last weekend. Here we sit on a Tuesday night recording. I don't know when you'll get this, so don't try to get mad about it being like next weekend. And I'm talking about it like it was yesterday. But Gamehole Con in Madison. So a number of illustrious events, premier, I would say, events in Wisconsin. But before we get into all of the banter and the usual fun, when you're playing and slaying, it's important to stay hydrated. So I'm hoping I'm not the only one drinking a beer tonight, but just on the off chance that I am and being disappointed by all my friends, I'm drinking a Newcastle. Since I had Newcastle last, they've updated the label on the bottle. I think the bottle is roughly the same, but my friend Barry is a big fan of Newcastle, and people always bring him Newcastle. So he brought Newcastle to the Airbnb this weekend when he came to hang out for GameholeCon. So there were a few in the fridge, so I brought them home with me, and it's reminding me of Saturday night at Gamehole.
It's very nice. Yeah, I would not recognize that beer. Somebody would I'd be like, what kind of beer is that? And I'd be like, oh, it's a Newcastle. It's been a while, since I've had one.
Yeah, they've rebranded, evidently for the brand. Speaking of for the brand, Bryce, what are you drinking other than paint water?
Well, this is probably worse than last episode. I thought about grabbing a beer from the fridge on the way down, and I didn't actually do it, but I do have my 42-ounce water bottle here next to me. So
I think you had it. Did you have a beer in the last month?
No, I had a picture of one that I wanted to recommend.
All right.
That I had drank a couple weekends prior. So I knew that would disappoint Ty, but
the disappointment's going to continue. Let's go to Josh. Josh, what are you drinking tonight?
I'll let you guess if it helps your disappointment.
Likely a liquid death, because you try to
make
liquid death canned water a thing.
Yep.
It is the mountain water variety.
Yep. You gotta love it.
I ran out of the other delicious ones, so this is.
Hey, listeners! I'm looking for hosts that want to drink beer with me and talk about games. So, open casting call. Playin and Slayin do like Hot Shots Part 2. Open casting call. Send me your videos, 1 minute in length or less, and tell me your 3 favorite beers. And Troy, what are you drinking?
Not a beer.
God damn it!
I went old school.
Oh, he's missing it.
He's missing it. He's missing it. I went above and beyond a beer. But Ty is missing it completely. So he's at.
You're missing it.
I'm like, Ty, you are missing it. I'm actually upping from a beer. I am.
Is that the house cocktail?
Yes, house cocktail. I needed a little pick me up. That I was.
You totally redeemed.
Yeah, I'm like, there's nothing.
I thought it'd be funny if I walked away though. So
no, it was good. It did. Yeah.
I did it for the
so
memes.
I guess newer listeners, this was a staple for I don't know years. I feel like
years. Yeah.
Yeah. Van Gogh Aussie blueberry vodka and White Monster is an unbelievable drink that tastes good and is good for you, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, and it'll wash windows too.
I don't know about.
Yeah, and it's good. And I have it in a BoD branded glass too, so it's even tastes better that way.
Brilliant.
So I tried to bring you back, Ty. I knew that we had to like.
I heard the ice clinking against the glass, and that's what drew me back to the.
I was actually really hoping that was going to just be a glass of ice water, and it was going to be the ultimate fake out.
But I do need to buy. I killed my bottle of Van Gogh vodka after I don't know how many years it's been up there, but I finally worked my way through it. It was a bit. I didn't realize how big that was. A big bottle. That was a. You have one. There's Josh,
Yeah.
right? I know where there's one in your house. I'll have to come.
Yep.
And
For more shows like this, check out the Goonhammer Media Network. More info at media.goonhammer.com.
So, guys, what are we playing? Let's start with a little bit of banter and get into it. We are going to cover, I think, some of the games that we've played at the various conventions we attended in this segment. Might just add and then I was at such and such, and I played so-and-so's version of this game. But let's start with one we played at BriceCon. So 3 of the 4 of us, Bryce, Troy, and myself, were up at Bryce's for a game day on a Saturday. Got to go hang out in it's northern Wisconsin. I mean, not
Yeah.
really, but
I mean, it's like as central as it gets, but
yeah,
northern too.
yeah.
You know.
Anything north of I-94 in Wisconsin is up north.
north, right?
No.
Yeah.
So we played a handful of games, but one of them was Oathsworn into the Deep Woods. Oathsworn is a campaign style adventure game, boss battler. It's not so much a dungeon crawl as you go through the first half of the game is kind of investigation, so a number of skill checks, and you kind of choose your own adventure through a storybook. And then the fewer places you can go to get the information you need, the bigger the benefit for the boss fight. So you discover what you're going to be fighting and kind of where, and then you set up the board for that encounter. There are miniatures for each of the characters. It's up to a 4-player game. And then there are some ridiculous monster models as well for the boss fight. So it has some interesting mechanics that are a little bit different than others. I don't know if we want to really deep dive it too much, or what, Troy or Bryce. I mean, if you guys want to kind of talk about what stood out to you, but
Yeah, I mean, I love miniature games, and so the miniatures in this thing are amazing, and so it was pretty cool. I love the gameplay, like you talked about. There's a lot of just things that really clicked for me. Right, in some ways, I think I mentioned that for me, this was like the Frosthaven killer for me. Like, I would love to play a campaign of Oathsworn. Over just because the story was so much there. Like you said, I hate to say investigation because it makes it sound like you're doing like whatever, and it's really more fantasy. I love the choose your own adventure, as you were saying, that part of it, and then how it paid off, and then the surprise, like it is a secret. Like you open a box that has the boss. You don't know what the boss is until you open that box. The only downside is you'd have to give it to your friend to secretly paint it for you, so that when you pull it out, it's painted. I don't know. I'm sure that there's somebody you could pay to do that or something. It would be interesting. But yeah, there's just so many things. And then the combat system, like you said, was really it was unique, and it really felt dynamic, and it felt like you were actually fighting. Like I think the AI for the monster was pretty cool in the way it interacted too. So you couldn't really kind of like figure out metagame the AI, right? It felt like you're really fighting this monster. It was going to do some crazy things to you, and the way it ramped up as we heard it actually got tougher, and things are coming at. So it was a blast. Again, it was just there. I mean, the one time we played it, but it was one. I was telling you, Ty, like it's one of those games that keeps sticking in my head. You're like, oh, I can't wait to get another chance to taste that game, because it just made a good impression. So
I thought it was cool too how once we had the flow of things, it's super quick and easy. Like Troy said, Frostgrave it's not, I wouldn't call it Frostgrave killer, but it's Frostgrave light, I guess, where you can realistically pull the game out and play it in an hour and a half probably, when you know what's rolling. And I thought that was super cool. It gives you the Frostgrave feel of the super engaging story, but it doesn't take an hour and a half to find all the pieces in the box to get it set up and go through all the steps to do that. So I thought it was really awesome too, and I definitely would love to get that on the table again. And the miniatures, they're like, what would you say, 40 mil scale?
Mhm.
They're bigger than
Yeah.
the 32
Yeah.
heroic of GW. They're decent size, and the boss was awesome.
Yeah.
It was.
let's
Wait, I think Ty may be getting a visual aid.
so
for
they
our
come in a
listeners.
box. They tell you what box to take out, and so like this is box 1, and then you open it up, and inside of it is a ridiculously sized.
Spoiler.
Yeah, well, this is
Yeah,
the first scenario,
the
and
first
it's in all the
scenario.
illustrations in the book, but it's a massive, like, giant rat.
That's pretty cool.
With
Yeah,
a bunch
it's
of
And
rats
it-
on its back.
Yeah, and then there are little giant rats that it like spawns, but like, look at the size, like size
It's
for scale.
actually
You know?
as big as his head. It's not just the camera playing illusion on him.
But it's a really nice kind of, I think, plastic. It might be resin. I think it's plastic, but
I think they're plastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
but really cool miniatures. And Troy, I know you mentioned the combat system, but like it uses cards, and then dice are optional. So you have item cards and ability cards in your hand. You have this currency that you pay to move, and you pay to play your action cards and your equipment cards. But then those cards give you choices that you can do, like movement or attacks, and then you modify your attacks by drawing kind of battle cards, and those battle cards add numbers to the strength of your attack. But if you draw 2 blanks, you miss. So you're pushing your luck, drawing additional cards, because you can really draw as many cards as you want for your attack, and then modify them for more powerful decks. But and your cards are played in, they call it battle flow, which is interesting. So you play them down into one of 4 positions around your player board, and the only way you can move them forward is by playing another card in that slot. So you're playing with your 7 or 8 cards in hand, but you're losing them every time you do stuff, and then trying to manipulate them back into your hand. So like Troy was saying, there's this ebb and flow to combat, combined with the enemy AI, which is drawn from a deck, but it might attack and then move, or move, attack, move again, or spawn minions. So there's this ongoing kind of shift in the battle and change in it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we have some pretty good endorsements for Oathsworn, which was is it available like retail? I think so, right? Or is it only Kickstarter? You'd have to scrounge to find it now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to find if you didn't get in on Kickstarter. There might be some retailers that like backed it, but it was a Kickstarter. It took around a year plus to fulfill, and this was the 2nd edition, so it had come out a few years ago. They went and kind of reprinted and upped the production value and did some stuff, but it's relatively highly rated on. I was gonna look it up on BGG, but like people really have responded well. I think it's hanging out at a 9.1 with over 3,000 ratings on Board Game Geek. So
Wow.
usually a rare game hangs out over 9, let alone over 8 once it has and it's thematic, the 13th ranked thematic, and 169 overall. So I mean, people are liking it, you know.
That's awesome. Well, I'm jealous I didn't get to play.
Well, I'm sure we will get it to the table again, given how everyone enjoyed it.
Awesome.
All right, what else did we play? Let's stick with BriceCon. Troy got his hands on off of an Australian eBay, Dwellings of Eldervale, which is a game I think I talked about after I came back from Seattle and called it the maybe best board game that I've ever played.
You did say that.
And I said categorically, like across the board, it's hard to say why it's not a 10. And after playing it that was my 4th or 5th playthrough with you guys, like I stand by it. I really, really liked it, but I don't want to kind of drown out your guys' first reaction. So what did you guys think of Dwellings of Eldervale?
I definitely see why you feel that way, but it's definitely one of those games where you have to play it 2 or 3 times to fully appreciate how great it could be. And I think a lot of those style of games are like that, right? That when you first play it, you don't really understand all the things you can do or even should do. So it takes a couple playthroughs to do it, but I definitely feel the draw to play it again and again, because it's like every game is completely different in what you choose to pursue and how you choose to pursue it. And I think that's maybe the hardest thing for a game to achieve, right? Is to be something that you could play 100 times and never have the same experience playing. So I think that's a super, super awesome aspect of it.
Yeah, I give it. It was a lot. The gameplay itself was a lot of fun, and like you said, Bryce, the first time I just kind of went in going with, I'm just gonna play and not really care. Like it feels like this is gonna score me some points, but like until you really play it a couple of times, you don't really kind of feel. But it sounds like there is also a lot of variability, as Ty has kind of said. So you may not, each game is not going to have the same road to points and victory for you, right? You're gonna have to adapt to the situation because the board is so dynamic. But I thought, yeah, the gameplay was fun, lots of fun fun action, just enough player interaction with other things. I love the theme, right? And there's all the different factions that you can play around that. So, and the component quality also is really cool. Really nice game. And it took me, I think Ty, I spent, I don't know, maybe 2 hours the night before kind of unboxing it, putting it's got great box control. Is it like the game trays kind of stuff to put in there? But
Yeah.
so it was great that, the night before which got me a little bit more familiar with the game as you go through all the parts and do that. So so component quality is up there. Gameplay was a blast. And like you said, replayability is kind of off the charts on that. So it's definitely something we're going to it'll kind of be in rotation, I think. Cause it's not, what was it? Is it even 2 hours, 90 minutes, 2 hours to play maybe? Once you really know, it's probably less than that.
Once you know your turn and kind of the flow, cause you're only doing that one thing, right? You're putting a guy out, resolving, collecting stuff, fighting a battle if needed, or you're pulling your guys back home and taking your actions off the kind of board and tableau that you built. So it's like a worker placement on steroids. But Josh will get that one to the table for you too.
Excellent. Yeah, I was gonna say that's
We're gonna have to have a game day for games Josh hasn't played, and just
like a makeup BriceCon.
Yeah.
And then we also got into the Lord of the Rings, Magic the Gathering Commander. I think we had a 3-player. I was Sauron. Bryce, I think, was the elves, and Troy was
Ladriel.
Were you like the hobbits and the men of Gondor? I forget what your deck was, Troy.
I was the girl fighter, whoever the girl fighter
Oh,
is.
Eowyn. Like
Eowyn, that's it.
Riders of Rohan. The men, the humans of humans and hobbits. So played some Magic, and Sauron, the Dark Lord, was victorious after pitting the elves against the humans. And
I tried. I made one big play and I took you down. What did I get you? I had you under 10, didn't I?
I was down to 1 at the end.
I made a big play because I'm like, all right, Ty's gonna win this. I have to do this now. And I knew I didn't probably quite have enough, but I thought maybe I'd soften up enough for Bryce to hurt him, but it didn't work.
Yeah, you don't understand Magic. Every time I play, everyone's doing all this crazy stuff, and I'm sitting here trying to find lands in my deck to play cards. And I think your years of experience and my maybe collective 5 games ever probably put me at a slight disadvantage in the games. More so, like I feel worthless. Troy set me up for the easy win, and I couldn't even do 1 damage.
Yeah, I had a pretty ridiculous board state at that point in the game, though. So even though I had 1 life, unless he had direct damage, it was I was in the driver's seat.
And I can't even remember the trick. Whatever the heck the thing I did where I threw a ton of damage at you.
Yeah, so that was kind of our day of games. It was a good time. Had fun carpooling up with Troy, and then. What else are we playing? Josh, have you been playing anything outside of getting together with us since you missed BriceCon? Like, did you have your own game day with your dad at the airport?
Yeah, I got to play Uber Shuttle, which is a fun game where you drive to the airport. Anyway, but yeah, I've been playing Battleship a lot lately.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh,
Hedgehog Roll. I think I've talked about that before, where it's like a little hedgehog and you roll it, and then you follow the little path. My youngest likes that. Those are the big ones. I think we played Candyland once a week ago. So yeah, just the fun basic games that are instilling the love of board games in these children.
I don't think Candyland's actually a game.
Well, you draw cards and you move on a board,
Move on a
and
board.
there's little people. There's
I don't know.
meeples or whatever.
Maybe.
Standees.
How do you win?
You
get to the end.
You get to,
You
Can
draw
you win?
You draw the cards
Yeah.
that move you further, better than others, but you
Yep.
can't
Candyland Road.
influence.
I always kind of
Others
remember
go your
you
own
like you
journey in
can't
any
win.
way.
Like you always get up there and then there's like the gumdrop thing or something. Like you never win. Everybody gets to the top and then they fall on that slide or they whatever.
Get
That's
stuck
a
in
good
the
zip
swamp
back.
thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was scarred as a child. I feel like I was scarred as a child, and like Candyland is like I'm this like it.
You know
makes
what
me
we
kinda-
need? We need Restoration Games to do Candyland, but they need to make it like a battler, like a racing battler, where you fight your opponents on the way.
Like what's the movie?
I don't know.
Oh, what's the movie? Sarah
Running
Silverman.
Man.
No, Sarah
Mad
Silverman
Max.
is the Sarah Silverman is the girl. Come on, you
No.
guys.
All right. So in the meantime, as Josh was playing that, I bought my wife Wingspan, and we played Wingspan. The two of us. She saw it. We went
Awesome.
to Barnes and Noble after a birthday dinner, and she's like, "That always looks fun, interesting." I'm like, "I'll buy it," and I bought it at Barnes and Noble, and we took it home and played it.
Awesome. Did she like it?
Yeah, I think so. I think Wingspan's one of those games that takes a few plays before you kind of really get what you're trying to do.
For sure.
But Landon got disinterested after like 4 turns, but it was a little later. So
Wreck-It Ralph. She's Vanellope, Princess
Oh.
Vanellope. And
That-
then going
that
to
would
like the Candyland.
That description.
Yeah, she drives the car. Yeah.
Yeah, see? Yeah. Sorry. I came at that way around. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
and then Lightning McQueen stops before he wins the race.
You know, it's funny. There's
And it's about
probably
the friends he made along the way.
there's probably listeners out there like yelling while Troy's trying to explain, and none of us get it. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Hello, Wreck-It Ralph! It's Wreck-It Ralph! You idiots!"
Sorry, Stu. We didn't know that it was Wreck-It Ralph. So yeah, I played Wingspan. That was the filler. We also let's talk about some non-event games. So we got back to Frosthaven, and we had our first character retirement. I always forget the actual name of the character, the Deathwalker, I think.
Yes.
Finally got its personal quest completed and finished it, and we opened a new building. I won't say what because that's you open new buildings when you retire characters, and we got a new building in the town, which was kind of cool because we haven't had anything new in the town in a while. And we realized we've been playing the game at twice the level of scenario than we should have been. So it's no wonder that it felt incredibly difficult this last mission. It's kind of like we hit this point where now it was high enough level scenario and we weren't really there, and it was a struggle, and now we're like, we're gonna crush this when we play at the recommended actual level. We've been playing on like Frosthaven hard mode.
Yeah. I thought that was crazy when we realized we've been doubling the level, and we were legitimately still beating levels, like
Yeah.
But they always felt like skin of our teeth.
super close. Yeah, right. Like so crazy.
Maybe you should
close.
just keep going at that level then.
No, this
It's impossible.
This one was pure like there was literally no way. We even had some of those moments where it was like huge damage or ridiculous things like to get us out of trouble. And we ran out of gas. Like there was no way we could crush through the number of enemies that we need to crush through. because their health is so high. Like at that level, you're just the elites have like 25 health each, and there's like 9 of them in the mission or 10 of them. But yeah, then D&D. We're playing some D&D again.
Oh yeah.
We had about a month off because one night the GM called in drunk. But I think we're getting to some big kind of, you guys are now more involved in like world changing events, less micro, more like global scale threats and stuff. So hopefully that's keeping it interesting.
As soon as you start having conversations with deities and getting transported to other planes of the universe, it's, things start to happen.
Yeah, 8th,
Finding-
9th level shit.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, that, I don't know, any other gaming outside of events. Otherwise, we could go through like Gamehole games played, or
Let's do it.
right.
That's it for me.
So, Troy, did you play any games during your time at Gamehole?
No.
Josh, did you play any games during your time at Gamehole?
I played True Dungeon. That was it. No
Let's-
board games.
Do you want to talk about True Dungeon now, or you want to wait a little bit and get the zesty True Dungeon takes?
Yeah, we'll shelf it for
Yeah,
now.
let's wait. I think that'll be part of the Gamehole experience. Yeah.
All right. No foreshadowing. I played some games at Gamehole. Well, not so much. I played one game in the convention center, and that was the Milcog board game library. Matt and Barry and John and I went and played Earth. We learned it in about 15 minutes, reading the book, kind of taught it, did one turn just as this is how it works, and then played. And wow, is that a lot. That game, you're paying attention to so much stuff, and the scoring, you need like a calculator to figure out the 12 scoring categories. But we all said this game is really, really good. Like the strategies, the way that you can go so many different ways to win, all the different goals and what you're kind of trying to track. Like we got the end game scoring, and I was like, I didn't even realize that was one of the scoring goals. Like I didn't even touch one of the cards and was still, relatively close without even putting any effort towards one of the 3 primary like goals. But you're drawing cards and playing cards down in kind of a space. Troy's talked about it on Board Game Arena, I think, a few times. But we played the actual physical version, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, you guys are the hero. Like I would never play it that way. I don't think after I played Board Game Arena, because I was just like, yeah, I don't know that I want to figure out, because each turn you have to go up each row of your board, of your matrix, I'll call it, right? And you score in different things, and just trying to get it. It's one of those games that I'm sure even if you play it in real life, everybody's probably misplaying something or will forget something at some point during the game, and you just have to be okay that it's all going to come out in the wash at the at the end, that everybody probably made a mistake at some point and it's going to work out. But I agree, Ty. I really like the game itself is pretty cool. Just a lot of things to it, and doing it on the Board Game Arena where the computer makes sure that you take your turn and do all your stuff and adds the points together makes it much more, I guess, tolerable.
Yeah, what I like too is every player turn, like you are taking a primary action, but then everybody else gets to do kind of a sub, like a lesser version of that action, and then kind of go through their board. So every player turn, everyone is doing stuff, so you kind of are constantly engaged, because those turns could be pretty long if you're just sitting there waiting for somebody to kind of finish up. But that's Earth. I don't remember who it's by, but it's a card game that came out right around Gen Con, maybe before. I think it was a this year release or tail end of last year.
Tail end of last year, I think. Yeah, because it's been a while since we played it. Yeah, we probably played it last winter or the earliest spring. So. And
then at the Airbnb, got some games of mine that I brought along, played. Matt, Elena, myself, and John played Evergreen. And then John and Matt and I played it 2 more times after that. So That's a game where I think Josh, you've played that one with me,
Yes.
and you're kind of taking an action, putting trees, treeples, little meeple trees on the board, trying to collect sunshine, similar to photosynthesis, but also scoring for like size of your forest, and then scoring end game for large trees in various biomes that accrue points as you play. So pretty cool game. Everyone enjoyed that one. What else did we get played? Blood Rage got to the table, first time in a long time. Matt had never played Blood Rage, so he's like, "Hey, can you bring that
Whoa.
along?" Because he's like, "It has card drafting," and I was like, "Yes, it does." So played some Blood Rage. Got to try Ex Libris. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one. You are so similar to Earth. You're building a card tableau, but your cards are books, and your bookshelves have to be supported, so you have to have books under them. You're putting them in like rows of 3 down in front of you, and you're trying to collect. You have a secret objective of a kind of book you're trying to collect, and then there's like a common one. Then there's a banned book that loses you points, and these tiles come up that give you worker placement actions. So you place your worker and you get to either draw 3 cards, keep one and shelve it, or take draw actions or shelf actions or reorganize. But those locations are disappearing. 3 come out, only 1 stays. 3 more come out, 1 stays. So you're losing some of your locations as the game progresses, and then scoring your library at the end. Really cool game. It looks really cool because as you're playing your cards, each card has between 2 and 4 tomes on it with like titles. So you're trying to organize your books in alphabetical order because you lose points if they're not in alphabetical order at the end of the game. You lose the books; they become empty shelves. You like flip them over if they're not supported. It's really interesting. But a lot of choices, and you're constantly looking at like these 30 actions, like deciding what's best. And once you've played cards, it's very hard to move them around. So like I made the mistake, I put one of the R's next to a T, and I missed out on like an S like card that would have been great to put in my library, but I couldn't because I had boxed myself in. But Ex Libris, very, very fun. Very good. I'm like, maybe I want to buy this one. But Ex Libris got played.
Cool.
So I don't know what else GameholeCon was played. I think that does it for the playing there. And my playing in general. Troy, I know you played some miniature games though.
Yeah, well, why don't we talk about that when I'll do my Dragonfall fly through when we hit do that.
Our main topic. Cool.
Yeah. Since that's the only thing I did there, really.
Well, without further ado to what's been played, let's talk about hobby. I assume Bryce, you might be hobbying right now.
I am, yeah. I've been doing a lot of hobby.
Yeah,
Even you've been doing some hobby, Ty.
I have been. What are you working on?
Actively at this exact moment, I'm finishing up building the Guardians of the Galaxy. I've had a Guardian / as Guardians force that I've been working on for far too long. So the goal is to have that done in time for the Weekender. So I just wanted to get these last few built. But putting in a ton of time onto the Havoc project. A lot of time went into the zombie dragon that I'm working on. And just been, for the first time in a long, long time, just loving spending time at the hobby desk again. And I think one of the biggest things that I've tried to do is just stop putting so much pressure, I guess, on myself. It sounds silly, but I think a lot of the struggles that I've faced with wanting to hobby are just always feeling like I have to do something that's above and beyond, and I never just do something for fun or paint something quick. Because everyone, and this sound not to sound arrogant, but everyone always says, "Oh, you're a great painter. You're a great painter, and you do all this cool stuff." So I always feel weird if I just paint a normal model and don't spend 3 days on it. And it's I've been painting just some random Frostgrave models and stuff to just finish them. And the the reward of finishing a project has kept me so engaged in painting that it feels awesome. And then I can go to other big projects like the Zombie Dragon and spend 9 hours highlighting scales and feel okay with that, knowing that I can take a break and do something else that only takes 2 or 3 hours. And it's been super awesome to just refocus on what makes me happy and stop worrying about any of the outside stuff that doesn't matter at all. Like, I don't even post on social media anymore because sometimes I get self-conscious or sad when I only get 9 likes on something that I thought looked really cool. And it's a sad world that we
Yeah.
live in, that's kind of like the thing that drives us. But I'm trying to just not do that anymore and just let how I feel here make me happy.
That's awesome.
It sounds good. Yeah, you can always just post on the Discord and you'll get the tile like it at least. You always
Yeah,
get one, you know. That's it.
Yeah, I have the most reactions on our Discord server to date. That's a fact.
Is that tracked?
I don't I should look, probably.
Yeah, I guarantee it's me. Guaranteed.
I'm pretty high up there.
You don't hit every channel though. You don't go through every channel and put reactions. I have reactions in 3D printing that you can't even touch. No, Josh, you're a frequent thumbs up or heart eyes.
You give the eyeballs the looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm looking at your stuff. I let people feel seen.
Yep,
I
I
let
like it.
feel seen.
Love it. Love it.
How about you guys? Have you been staying up on Havoc projects?
No.
No.
Uh-oh.
Troy had a missed schedule and we had to end our Havoc adventure for this year. I was sad because I brought Josh into this and I was all excited. And then literally we were at the end of a planning session and I was like planning my calendar to do stuff. And I realized I had a family engagement that smashed on top of Havoc. So
He got me real excited
yeah.
and then dashed my dreams.
Yeah. Against the rocks. So
All right, sports.
there will
fans.
be another time. We'll figure it out.
Bryce and I are looking for a round 4 grudge. Dance cards
Oh
open.
yeah, I forgot about
Let's
that.
go.
Wow. Well, you know what we could do for the first time in maybe since ever, maybe since the first Havoc or first Holy Wars I played in 7 years ago. Just don't have a grudge.
Play strangers.
Just play someone we don't know, and it'll probably be a great time.
I mean, we make our own fun.
Or we have the true grudge against the best sports from last year that didn't do the honorable thing.
Let's do it. Let's call them out. Night 1.
Yeah,
Put it on the board
I like it.
at the Friendship Arena. We'll play them at the Friendship Arena board.
Yep.
Troy,
Yeah.
what other hobby have you been doing?
I have been procuring a lot and 3D printing a lot. I have tables full of all kinds of stuff for Space Hulk. I don't know, whatever this is, 4.0, 5.0. But yeah, lots of momentum for that for next year. So might have a lot outsourcing some of my miniature assembly to John, who's building a bunch of new things. I have a bunch of boxes over here thanks to Eric's Games and Hobbies. Thank you, Sky, for maybe some new Terminators and new Gene Stealers and things like that too.
Sweet.
Are you doing a full refresh?
Full refresh is the plan. Yep.
Done for this year's Adepticon. Put it on the record. Strike it in right now.
Yep. No, it's good. And then that table is, I don't know, it's only about this high, full of 3D printed Space Hulk pieces. And that's only and I'm not even close yet, but we'll see. But we're getting there. So, but so that's kind of the full.
Wow.
Well, John is not assembling stuff for you right now because I just got a notification that he's playing Valheim. So
I know that's
all right. Well,
you know how it is. It's hard to get good help. It really
It
is.
is.
It is.
It really is. Absolutely.
And
All
that's
right.
why. And then I have been I was playing around with some painting, just trying out some Gene Stealer Tyranid paint scheme stuff. Probably the Leviathan type paint scheme on a few Termagants over here with some things. I took, is it Trovarian? Everybody watch him on YouTube. He had a scheme that I like, kind of the color scheme, and I took that and I'm kind of modifying it slightly and see if that's going to be something I can semi speed paint but get some results that I kind of like. So
Well,
Nice.
can I ask a question that I hope doesn't offend you?
mm-hmm.
What chapter are they? Or what color? Are they all ultramarines or what are
I
they?
haven't done Marines yet. These are all just the Tyranids.
Oh, okay. But is
And
there
then, and
like,
we
do
will
you have a
do,
plan for that, or is it?
we will do the same thing. We're going to have, it'll be, which is kind of fun, right? It'll be a random, not a random, it'll be an assortment of different squads. So I'm thinking, unless somebody tells me, there will be an Ultramarine squad, just because there always is. There'll probably be some kind of a Blood Angels Flesh Tearers one again. And I'm thinking about doing, somebody help me, Dorn.
Imperial Fist.
Imperial Fist. I kept thinking Black Templar. I'm like, that's not right. Imperial Fist, just because it'd be fun to play with all the new yellow.
Prime.
If I can make it work cool.
Prime your Imperial Fist brown.
Yeah, I'm gonna play. I will be French. I'm gonna try some different things to see what really works. Yeah, to see how yellow, or if I can use.
I've heard brown under
the,
yellow is the way to go.
I might use like contrast over a metallic or something, like the new, like the super yellow contrast is pretty interesting. Again, so that's kind of, I'm looking forward to that. Like those are kind of some fun projects along the way around that. And we'll see. I'm also offering up, like, we've had our friend Eric, and I'm like, if you want Space Wolves, if you'd like to paint some Space Wolves, you can go right ahead.
What
and
about
then maybe
Legion of
those
the
Space
Damned?
Wolves would show up. So what was that, Bryce?
Legion of the Damned, the flaming skull dudes.
Flaming guys, that's a thing, but probably not. Yeah, they're kind of they're kind of special. Yeah, they don't kind of work, but it's interesting.
All right, then I'm
out. Although we can make a story work with that. You're making the wheels turn already. You're like, oh, that would be kind of interesting. You can have it, yeah.
If you want that, I'm in. If you want that, if you don't want it, I'm out though. So
speaking of Space Hulk, I know Troy, you said, I think last episode, that you recorded with Carl, and is it Josh? No, and did the Space Hulk. I went back and watched it, and if anyone is a Space Hulk aficionado or fan, definitely tune in and watch the segment. They went through like the full-on history of it. They talked a lot about what Troy does and the playing of the game, but it was I think Troy kind of downplayed the appearance, but it was a really well produced really good episode, and it was entertaining as I was here painting one night to kind of I found myself every so often turning and like watching, even though I didn't need to. But listening to you guys. Very, very good appearance, and you represented us well.
I tried. It was fun, and I was not amazing, but Josh, who does all their production over there now. I was amazed at how he's able to quickly kind of turn around what we recorded and the way they kind of have me up. If you watch the YouTube, I love how they have you on like a green screen on the back, which is really cool. Yeah, I think the production was really great, and it was again, it's not hard to get me to talk about Space Hulk, so that was fun.
So Josh, have you been doing any hobby?
So I'm dipping my toe in dice making.
I thought you were going to say into streaming hot tub shows on Twitch.
Into streaming hot tub shows on Twitch?
Because you were dipping your toes in.
No, yeah. So I purchased a D20 Master from a dice maker, so 3D printed, and she kind of like laid out here's the steps, right? So you sand it first and make it like real pretty, and then you mold it. And I'm familiar with the molding process, and I actually just finished up the mold before GameholeCon, and now I need to go actually pour it and see how it turns out. So that will be my next step, and it's been interesting so far. It's a lot more work than I thought it was, which is both good and bad, right? It's a labor of love. So we'll see how many more of these I do, but making the mold was fun because I that's kind of been a thing I've enjoyed doing in the past. So yeah, I don't know. We'll hopefully have some D20s for people just to play with and see if they like them. So if you have color suggestions, throw them out.
So Josh is making D20s.
Uh-huh.
Any so were you working on Havoc stuff before you kind of?
Oh yes, that is true. Yeah, so I built a couple models and was trying. I was trying to get terrain for our board,
Okay.
our display board, kind of set up, and we had like a rough idea, and that was actually where things went off the rails, and Troy decided to quit.
All right. Any other hobby?
Oh, you don't undersell what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that clean and organized desk behind you.
Yeah, I don't know if I can even show it, but I've switched out all my scale paints for all my pro acryl
Nice.
with some of my inks and other choice ones, but I've been working on some stuff. I don't know. I'll just hold up a model real quick and people won't know what it is and it'll be a surprise. And but yeah, I've been painting some things and stuff for Havoc. Doing We'll see. It might end up. So Bryce and I have kind of made a commitment to potentially have a fallback plan to really do our best work and channel it to Holy Wars if Havoc doesn't work. But we'll see if we finish or not. But that's the intention. It'll for sure be done for Holy Wars in February, just maybe not for Havoc. But when every model is converted and everything's painted and you're trying to hold yourself to a high standard, sometimes you need to do more than 30 days of rushed work. But other than that, hobby desk, I primed a bunch of the Oathsworn heroes. I don't know what else I've done. We'll leave it there.
This all sounds good.
How about Kickstarter? This looks like an embittered Kickstarter story. And I bet if you didn't pledge so much, this wouldn't happen. But Troy, I'm gonna guess this is you.
What?
But this is dark. I'm a little worried.
No, I don't know if it's dark. I'm just, for as many years as I've done Kickstarter and how many I've done, the fact that I don't have more of these, I think is probably good. Although I think it feels like the trend is getting worse. I don't know on some of these board games. So what Ty's referring to in my notes, I kind of have the how long is too long in crowdfunding, because everything here is not about what I have pledged, but what I have basically canceled. And this is the first time I've actually ever gone back and said, you know what, screw it. I'm not gonna these people have had my money for however many years. And most of these are just, I lost all, like sometimes you put it and you're like, oh, I'll wait, and I get it in the mail 2 years later and you're like surprised, like, oh yeah, I don't remember I even did that. These were things I think I lost any kind of momentum for. And I'm like, I'm not going to care when these things come. Like, it's just not, I'm never going to play them, whatever. And so I actually canceled 2, and they're both game found ones. I don't know if that's a trend or not. The Robinson Crusoe, I'll let people go read that, the second edition of that. has been an absolute disaster. I think we're on 3+ years that's been in thing, and I think the last update was still felt. I think you're still maybe 6 months out, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like like there's no way that this should be long, and it's like, when I get it, I'm just gonna dump it probably anyway or sell it. And then ISS Vanguard, this is the remember where I got sucked in and accidentally, I think, not thinking about it, and I think this is a trend too, where I think, Bryce, you've got caught in this, where you do the single shipping, or like, oh yeah, I just want one way of shipping. Why do I want to? I don't want to pay the two things, right? And then you don't think about, well, they don't kind of tell you, right? Initially, the schedule is, oh yeah, well, that follow-up stuff is only like 3 months after the regular one. You're like, oh, that's great. The reality is, it's a year or more in between that. And so, like, the ISS Vanguard, that has been sitting in a store for more than a year on a shelf that I could have been, that I could have been playing. And again, right, I just lost all desire. I'm like, when this thing, all the hype is gone, whatever. So I've canceled that pledge too. And even though you're losing whatever 5 or 6% or whatever, I didn't kind of that. But that was, again, part of that was I probably got sucked into the single wave shipping, and I didn't mean to, or shouldn't have. I might have had a different experience if I would have got the game when everybody else got the game. But I know that, again, you hear that a lot with a lot of games that are trying to, I think it's because shipping costs are so much and everybody complains about shipping costs, but I don't know. I feel like nobody really wants to wait 2 years for a game that has already been released too. So, and then the other funny one, this is just, I have a sheet here. This is thing I never even knew that I was waiting for. So this was way back. I don't remember. This was the Rampage dungeon. The date on this piece of paper is July 11th, 2020. And this was like the extruded plastic, the little tiles for like a D&D dungeon kind of thing, Rampage. And I think I got the initial set a while ago, but even that was like a year or 2 years, whatever. And I didn't even realize that I hadn't gotten everything until I got a package like a couple weeks ago. And this piece of paper was in there basically with my invoice with the date. And I'm like, when did I didn't even know I was missing these add-ons for this thing that, again, now in the world of 3D printing in the last 3 years has moved. Like, nobody's going to buy this. They're just going to print it, or at least maybe, right? And some of that. So that was a kind of an interesting one. Again, as I was saying, 39 months after I probably did something, it finally showed up at my door, which I'm glad they at least shipped it, but I had no idea I was actually waiting for it. So, so a lot. Yeah. So apologize for the very negative crowdfunding. But it's the dark downside of crowdfunding that I think a lot of us have experienced, but I've had a lot of things kind of come to a head in this month, and so I'm like, just kind of cut my losses on a lot of stuff.
That's fair. Nothing new pledged here. Nothing new delivered here. I'll quick around the horn. Josh, Bryce, you're still waiting.
I'm still waiting, and I did back. Obviously, there was an Awakened Realms game that was put up, so I had to back it to keep tradition alive. A Dragon Eclipse. It looks cool. The models look cool. And then Troy had me going poo-poo on everything and say, oh, yeah, but the game sounds dumb. So I still bought it. I did the premium backing, and, I'll let Troy ruin my day the next time.
No, I try. It's one of those, you're like, you don't want to well, you asked, you're like, oh, that's really, and I'm like, do I say what I went through on that? Because I was the same thing. I'm like, this looks really cool. It's Awakened Realms. It's dragons. How can this not be cool? And then I kind of poked a little bit, and I just was not. I just said I was not excited with the gameplay examples that I saw. So that's what kept me from.
Well, we'll see in 2027 when we get to play it, when it finally arrives.
I think I might do a late pledge for a Kickstarter from Corvus Games. a 3D print studio that we all know and love. They did it's called Tycho Starport. I don't really have any need for it, but every picture I've seen of it and like people's paint jobs and all this stuff, it makes me want to buy it and just paint it up and just have it ready in case there's. I mean, it actually might work for like, Star Wars games and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's pretty cool. I'm probably just gonna, after this recording here, just late pledge and get it all just to have it, because it's pretty neat. So yeah, Tycho Starport, check it out. And there's a new one coming out too, Magna Fortuna. That is, it looks like it's kind of similar. Like it looks like they'll work together. So check those out. Corvus Games, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're good. Good. Lots of really cool stuff. More than I will ever print, probably I own, but
For sure.
they're not. Yeah, you're not investing that much to get a lot of stuff.
Right.
I was just looking at Corvus Games website and the Kickstarter. Pretty neat. CMON's back to their licensing craziness. You guys see the news? So Marvel Zombies came. That was the thing. Now they're doing Deceased DC. Same. It looks like very similar rules, but all the DC licensing. So like Zombie Batman. Looks like, I think, Superman. I saw maybe Wonder Woman. Actually looks pretty cool. I know Barry, a buddy of ours, is he's like, I hate you so much for showing me this because I'm gonna buy all of it. He's a huge DC guy. Bryce, as much as you might be a Marvel guy, he is a very big DC fan. But yeah, other than that, Kickstarter, crowdfunding. Should we move into just other random, interesting things? Well, then let's skip down to Lorcana and my rant.
Oh yeah.
So season 1, or the first chapter, as they're calling it, still completely sold out everywhere, unavailable unless you want to pay scalpers on eBay $400 for a box of booster cards. No sign of more coming. Like big box stores, small game store, everybody's been like, there's supposed to be another printing, but then they go and they announce chapter 2, the Floodborn, Rise of the Floodborn, and the release date is targeted for November 17th, but a lot of distributors still haven't given stores their information about what they're getting or dates or whatever. A few pre-orders are out there, but all sold out. Now people are saying the first chapter will be reprinted after the second chapter. I'm ready to just say Ravensburg or whatever, like Ravensburg doesn't have any clue how to release a card game, because they are alienating like people that want to play this game and play with their kids, and it is only getting into the hands of scalpers and collectors and secondhand like sales. They don't have a player base, like because the story events are so limited in what they can offer. Like it's crazy to see what could have been a very successful, thriving game, and it's early. Maybe it'll come back and they'll flood the market. They'll learn how to print more than they need to for cards. But it's absolutely crazy. Like if you want to play the game, you can't. You literally can't find cards at a reasonable price. Like, and then I saw that the new set's coming out. I'm like, I don't believe this. This is crazy. Stock is so limited because I've been on like restock notification lists with like 4 or 5 different retailers. None of them are like saying they have any inventory. It's pretty wild. And for a game that has such a huge IP, it makes sense that collectors want it, but I am shocked at how they were not able to even come close to meeting demand for like a player, to establish a player base.
Yeah, that's like the worst possible thing you can do, right? Is not have your initial figured out, but also how hard is it to just print more cards? Once the game's designed, shouldn't it be like go to the printing press and have them print more?
My guess is they're not printing in either Europe or US. They are probably printing in China, and you probably have a 3 to 6 month turnaround on getting that. Plus, again, if it's a busy printer, how do you get it into the right? They probably already had the chapter 2 lined up on their production schedule, and they had to figure out how do we reprint one. There's logistics is hard, right? Especially for a company that this is their first, right? They're a board game company. They're probably really good at printing board games.
Mm-hmm.
But collectible card games, right, is a whole different beast. Especially and it's one of those, like Bryce, I think it is hard. Like, they probably knew they had something good, right? They had something, but it's that how much capital do you have to bet on the initial release, right? It's an interesting thing, right? But it's like, they probably could have done something to hedge that bet, right? Like, hey, we're going to do initial release. As soon as we get hot, that realize that this thing's going to be hot, we can get something, that second running in, right? You could have done some things probably to get their production lined up, but again, it's hard, right? But yeah, it'll be interesting. Like you said, Ty, I think it'll be, can the game survive this? Like, is the IP big enough that in a year from now, when they get things figured out, people kind of forget that it was a disaster for the first 12 months or so? Or have they soured a chunk of their base that'll never tell people, just like, oh yeah, I bought the initial set, I bought 3 booster packs, I was never able to get any more, and I've lost things. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough if you can't establish a casual player base, like the casual fan of a game, to sustain it. Like, because eventually, if the people buying it are just relisting it, right, selling it at a markup, that comes down eventually. Like, people stop paying the exorbitant prices because they know someday they'll get it, and they lose interest in having it right now or early. And we're 3 months after release, and it's still not out there, and there's still stock on eBay and StockX. So it's not like people are going and dropping a ton of money. It's come down from the 400 plus it was at to like 350. I think you're starting, like, we'll see what happens. I think not having it available for the holiday season is also a huge hit. Like, if you can't splash a second print to land before holiday shopping and Christmas, like, what are you doing? That's the number one rule, right? As a producer, you got to get it out there for the holiday rush. But
well, and chances are that chapter 2 is going to be just as limited, right? It's not like if they miss the mark with chapter 1, they didn't have, and they can't recover, they don't have time to fix chapter 2. So
no, they're not going to do anything different.
Friday.
Yep. They're not doing anything different for the second chapter. But we'll see. We shall see. So
missed opportunities.
Let's speaking of missed opportunities, should we move into the library and talk about what I've been reading?
Yep.
I feel bad kicking it off because I have a laundry list.
You're good. Can I just go and I'll be done?
Yep.
So I'm still reading Memories of Ice, Malazan book 3. It's 900 and some pages, 40 plus hours on Audible. And so I'm loving it. I'm loving that book. My favorite so far. But I've been in and out of Audible. I don't have enough of a commute anymore, so it takes me a while to get through a book that's 40 hours on Audible. So, but I'm bringing it home. I have like 6 or 7 hours left, right? Which is the length of a normal book or something, right? Left, but it feels like I have this little short time left to bring it home. But just loving it. I know, Ty, you've talked about how much that series is amazing. So really enjoying it. And it feels like it's really getting steam in book 3 here. As all the stuff that comes together in the first 2 books. So
Excellent.
I also really struggle to listen to books on Audible. You know, I've
Liar.
only since we last recorded listened to all 6 Dungeon Crawler Carl books, as well as a Stephen King fairy tale and the Land of Lost Things book that just came out. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, it was a good month. I wanted to, have some spooky stories in there. And Land of Lost Things, I know we had talked a lot about Book of Lost Things, which is looking back and re-listening to it, one of my probably favorite books. Just a cool story, coming to age story. Land of Lost Things, I think I need to read it physically because the narrator reminds me a lot of someone who would be reading you a bedtime story.
Hmm.
She's got a very nice voice, but it's very much like puts me to sleep. So
Mhm.
I want to get the physical book and read it to see if I enjoy it as much. I didn't enjoy listening to it quite as much as I did the Book of Lost Things, but
So,
Carl was awesome.
Yep. Agreed.
so real quick before we get a Dungeon Crawler, Carl, what I know
Yeah.
of Land of Lost Things is the main character is female, and I think an older
Female.
woman versus the boy. Do you think
30,
some of it is
35-year-old
connecting with the character, like that boy, that coming of age, kind of youth to teen to adulthood? I think there was a connection for all of us as male readers.
Yeah.
Do you think some of that's missing with the perspective?
Possibly a little bit. I actually think the way that this book is set up is really, really interesting. It starts with a woman whose daughter is in a coma or has got in a car accident when she was driving, and it's about how she's coping with that and recovering from that. So I thought it
Mhm.
was really engaging in the beginning, and I do think I would really enjoy reading it. It's just one of those where the narrator's not
Yeah,
for me.
gotcha.
And I think it has been fun and entertaining, and the Fae is involved a lot, which everyone knows tickles my fancy. So I do think it's a good book. It's just not, in my opinion, a great listen.
Makes sense. And then you listen to all 6 Dungeon Crawler Carls.
No spoilers.
Yeah. No spoilers. I will say I did enjoy it a lot. Probably fits right into the top 2 lit RPGs I've ever listened to. I didn't mind book 3. I thought book 3 did a good job of it's hard to talk about it, but a good
Chugging
job
right
of,
along,
yeah, but
not
know.
stopping at all the stations.
Spoilers. I'm filling
What?
in the gaps.
What? No.
I'm imagining I have a good idea what the level is like. All right.
Didn't feel
Yeah.
like you got great train robbery of a good experience.
You didn't feel
I
like the
will say,
story was a
though,
little railroaded?
jeez. Book 6 for
You
me
didn't have to put a
was
steam
the
engine on
slowest.
Audible to read it at 3x speed.
Yeah, book 6, first half was actually hard to get through. To me, the book 6 felt like how I think you feel about book 3. I think the end of book 6 was awesome, and the story had a ton of potential, but lacked the execution. And I think Josh kind of agrees with me. Maybe not.
To some degree, I liked the theme of book 6. So I think that maybe is what kept me interested. But yes, I can totally understand if you aren't the biggest fan of that theme, where it would kind of fall flat. So yeah, that makes sense.
But it's great. It's a great series.
Yeah.
Narrator's great. We did talk about it, I think, maybe offline, and I think part of what makes lit RPGs great is the narration, because the ones that have the great narrators are the ones that super captivate you, and then the ones that
Mhm.
don't are the ones who are like, oh boy, this is painful. It's also very, very hard. I think the biggest struggle with Land of Lost Things was I listened to it immediately after I listened to book 6 from uh, that series, and it was tough when you have greatness followed by not great.
Hmm.
Well, I'm gonna segue right into mine because greatness by not great is kind of the story of what I've been reading of late. So I finished John Gwynn's Faithful and the Fallen. Wrath. I think close to a 5-star in all 4 books. Like it was phenomenal. And then I started slogging through Mistborn again. I could probably talk for 30 minutes about where Mistborn missed the mark for me. I feel like it could have been half the length. I feel like the first 21 and a half hours of that book were meaningless, and the last hour was somewhat rewarding. It's the only. So I don't often give 1 or 2 stars. I tend on Goodreads to rate most books I finish as a 3. Like that's kind of my. You kept me long enough to get done. I don't believe in a 1-star review. Like if you listen to the end or you read a book all the way through, it's accomplishing more than one star. Just my personal take. But Mistborn, like I struggled, and I listened to it only when I was in the car. It was not. Sometimes I'll listen to a book and I'm like, this is really good. I'll listen to it while I'm painting or while I'm folding laundry or like other activities. This was only in the car. Like I couldn't get invested. Um, ended up giving it 2 stars, and I nearly gave it 1, but the last hour, so probably the last like 50, 60 pages get interesting. And it's like it could have been here the whole time, but it was so like Sanderson finding his voice or finding his world build. I think it's one of his earlier books. I don't know for a fact if it's how early he wrote The Final Empire, Mistborn, but it had to be early, and it shows. And I don't know, like teach their own. I know a lot of people speak highly of Mistborn. It's always like, oh, you got to read this. Such a good magic system. It's not. It's not. It's kind of like people that try to tell me that magic in Harry Potter's cool. It's not. But yeah, so Mistborn. I finished it, but I struggled, and I have absolute zero interest in ever picking up books 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of the Mistborn series. I might not even go back to read books 3 and 4 after like Way of Kings and Words of Radiance or whatever the second one is in the Stormlight Archives. Like I need a break. Like I just need a long break from Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, Mistborn.
Yeah. So what? I mean, I don't want to Elantris. I slugged my way through Elantris, and maybe this is why I've always been again love hate with Brandon Sanderson. Which was his first. I think that was like one of his first major ones, and then Mistborn was also I was looking is also like 2006. So I think it was in one of his first series, but it was one that really that's one that kind of launched him. I think because there were a lot of people that got in there for Mistborn. So, yep. So you're where I am, Ty, on some of that. That's why I've never been able to bring myself to Way of Kings. I'm just worried I'm going to be so disappointed.
Mistborn did so much that it actually, and I think I said this to you guys. I don't know. It cheapened what he did in Way of Kings because I see so much from his world and the way he structures his worlds and the cities and the power struggles between classes that felt copy pasted into Way of Kings that it now it's like I've reevaluated kind of how I view Way of Kings. Way of Kings is better writing. It's better action. It's better. It's just better. But like, I don't know. You can see it like the look of disappointment. Like I got done with it and I didn't feel like celebrating. I felt like crying because it was such a hard experience.
All right, you must have loved something on your list here, Ty.
Well,
I know you did. You already talked about Wrath.
Wrath was incredible. It wrapped up the series. It did everything I wanted it to. Like John Gwynn is the absolute like top of my list of guys I want to just keep putting out books. So then an author I usually love, Richard Kadrey, Sandman Slim, he co-wrote a book that just released last week Tuesday called "The Dead Take the A Train" with Cassandra Shaw or Chow. I'm not exactly sure her in spelling, but it's urban fantasy, takes place in New York, follows this woman who is relatively powerful magic user. It never really got going for me, and it definitely didn't have the humor. And I don't know, part of it is I don't know what he wrote or how much collaboration. Like, you don't really know what, when authors are co-writing, what that actually means. It didn't land like Sandman Slim for sure. Like, there were elements of it. But it was like a 3. It was average. I was just expecting, I think, like a really good read, and I got like a really okay read. But it's The Dead Take the A Train. Interesting urban fantasy. I think probably worth reading, but I'm not like, go read this.
Did you finish Sandman Slim? I can't remember.
I'm like 7 or 8 books into the 10. I never went back, and because I've been reading, I get the paperbacks because they have cool like movie poster covers. So I've been
Yeah.
reading those. And I need to just go and order them. Let's see. I took so long talking. Now I'm depressed. Like, Mistborn is so bad. I'm listening to Impact Winter. So it's a audio drama on Audible about a comet, a meteor hits Earth, and in the aftermath, vampires kind of come because there's no more daylight. So they've always been there, but like they come to the forefront and become the apex predator. And humans are in these small, like, communities surviving against the threat of vampires. And the first one was really good, and it has a lot of British kind of United Kingdom voice actors. And the second one just came out recently, so I'm listening to that. It's like 5 or 6 hours long, so it's pretty pretty easy to get through. Enjoying that a lot. And then I started reading. I actually have it here by me. It's called Whale Fall. So imagine if the Martian was a diver off Monterey Beach in California who went out over a trench and then ended up inside a whale. So it does science, and it alternates between this. I think he's a teenager, he's 17 or 18, moments from his childhood, his kind of estranged relationship with his father, and then these 2-page, like, gritting, trying to figure out how he can get out as he gets swallowed by the whale and taken into the whale's stomachs, and like talking about the science and what he knows, and like the stomach acid burning his exposed flesh, and like other stuff in there. And like it's really good. Each chapter is like 2 or 3 pages, so it's just like, snapping through it. I think I read maybe 150 pages last night, stayed up too late, and then another like 50, 60 so far today. Like, I'll get through it probably this week. But I remember The Martian being like that, where I was just reading it at a breakneck pace.
Yep.
And I've been watching some shows too, surprisingly enough. Top Boy on Netflix. It's kind of like the British version of The Wire, only I think it's pretty good. Some F1. And then started season 6 with Landon. We're watching Fear the Walking Dead since we finished The Walking Dead. And we're on season 6 of Fear, which is, I think, a better Walking Dead show than the original Walking Dead.
Sweet.
So a long list, a lot of reading, a lot of consuming, listening. But Mistborn, man.
Well, I don't know what Carl book I was reading in the last episode. I think I was on 4, maybe. I don't
You
know.
were on
Whatever.
4.
So I finished 4, finished 5, finished 6, and Bryce was like chugging right behind me, so I had to like quickly finish
I
6.
almost caught you.
Yeah, it was like a
I
day
think
or
2
something,
days.
right?
Yeah.
2 days. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Great series. If you like lit RPG, Dungeon Crawler Carl is a great series. And then I started reading Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. It's sort of outside of my normal realm of reading, right? It's usually sci-fi or it's usually fantasy or whatever. This one's like a crime mystery thriller type. So a black guy and a white guy get killed, and their respective fathers team up. Their respective fathers, who are ex-cons, team up to try to solve the murder because the cops decide that this case is cold and they don't want to pursue it. So there's a lot of I don't know. It's very interesting. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, there's a lot of like prison talk. They were both in the joint, and they kind of talk about their tattoos and all this kind of stuff. So I'm fairly early on. I think I'm maybe a quarter of the way in, but just their investigations of all these different leads that they have and stuff like that. You kind of like scratch your head, like, why do the cops not look after this? Well, it's because their sons were married, so they didn't care to look explore a crime of two gay guys is really the and this is happening in Virginia. So a small town in Virginia, you're kind of whatever. So it's interesting. There's a lot of interesting like LGBTQ stuff. There's a lot of interesting like black versus white stuff. There's a whole bunch of different themes throughout the book, and I don't know. It's so far it's a pretty good read. I'm enjoying it a lot. So and like I said, it's totally outside my wheelhouse of types of books I would normally read. I just somebody I forget where I heard about this one, but I was like, yeah, I'll take a stab at it.
I was gonna ask where you caught the wind of this one, because definitely a genre that I'm not used to hearing you read.
Yeah, it was just sort of like that. I want something different, and I forget exactly where I had heard of this
it's
book.
that
And I'm like,
book TikTok you do. I know it is.
Yeah. There you go.
Book talk, hashtag book talk.
Yep.
You got to put that. You got to put that in our notes on YouTube, Troy. That's how we get the algorithm to notice
to find us. That's good.
Hashtag book talk.
I don't know how TikTok works, but I can put the hashtag in for sure.
We need a Playin and Slayin TikTok.
Yeah, for sure.
Where we do choreographed TikTok dances on screen. And Bryce can do 1-minute paint videos.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did kind of cut you off, Josh. Any other thoughts on Razorblade?
Oh, no. Just, it's a good book. Check it out if you're interested in crime, mystery, thriller type.
Crime, mystery, thriller type. I did get a recommendation this weekend from John Scott. Ben Winters is the author, and the book is The Last Policeman.
Okay.
Elevator pitch is asteroid tracking towards Earth, and as it gets closer, the percentage chance of a hit and devastation gets higher. Society kind of starts changing laws, but as it gets closer and closer, there's a murder, and a policeman is investigating, but like everyone else in the department is not interested. Like nobody wants to actually stop crime anymore because society's ending, and it kind of looks at what happens when civilization starts to fray at the edges. And The Last Policeman is this detective that's fully invested in this case that he's trying to break. So I added it to my to read, probably pick that one up here in the coming days. But
nice.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the gaming convention / tournaments / game days in Bryce's kitchen that we had recently. And we're back. Time to talk about BriceCon 2. So we talked about our game day and the games we've been playing, but a few other items of note that I think are important when talking about BriceCon is the grade A hospitality. There was beer that was cold. There was a vegan chili in the crock pot, noodles, all the fix. Like, it was good to go. Bryce went all out and took care of us. And there was a new puppy around too. So you got a lot of hand licks, and you'd feel something bumping up against your leg under the table. So there were friendly pets, good food, and games.
Pretty much nails it.
All right, well, that's their show. Good. Troy, let's hear your kind of experience. You went down the Dragonfall, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which has events in kind of all of the kind of Games Workshop plus other miniature gaming. But you specifically participated in some Warhammer 40K 10th edition tournament.
Yeah, 10th. Played my first competitive 40K in a while. I'm trying to think if I did. Like semi really competitive. Like this was a full blown 5-round GT. I made it my own. So originally I was signed up to do the friendly because I'm like, I don't really need to do competitive 40K, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They said, the guy who's going to do the friendly couldn't do it. And so do you want to do either the team or join the GT? I didn't have a teammate, so I just figured, all right, I'll just roll into the GT and do that and then as I went in, I'm like, I even going, I'm like, I didn't really have a lot of motivation. I'm like, well, I'll just play. And then if I make it the first day, I don't have to play the second day. And then even as I got in, I'm like, and it was also my daughter's birthday and they came down with us too. And so I was like, maybe I'll just make it a Troy tournament, 2 rounds and then call it a day. And then we'll go hang out with my daughter and wife for the evening. So ended up playing it was, I don't know what they had, like 30. It was, again, good crowd. We got there in the morning. Took them a little while to get the thing set up. I think they couldn't get into the room as early as they want, and that's not fault of them, because I think everybody, even when I was there the night before, I peeked in the hall and they didn't even have tables up. Like so it's like if the hotel can't even get you tables, it's kind of, and they had people there to put mats and terrain up, but if you don't have tables, right, you're kind of screwed. So they ended up having to kind of do a lot of stuff in that morning. So I think it took us a little bit. But we were delayed only by maybe 45 minutes, I think. So I gotta give them credit for getting that. It was funny. I mean, I had not done again, and maybe I've played more competitive AOS than I have like hardcore 40K, but and this was they're actually in the Milwaukee area. Is that Wavestorm or whatever? They're over by Utah, actually.
No, Warpstorm.
Warpstorm, yeah, the guys from there, good guys, but again, it's the it's kind of where 40K is now for competitive. Like every table basically has the same set of terrain. It was all 3D printed, decent, but it wasn't all paint. I don't think any of it was really painted. So big gray buildings, kind of whatever, right? You're on a mat. I like the tournament rules. Like they do a good job. Like they lose the Leviathan. So you have, you kind of mix the scenarios, which again, I think 40K has stole from a lot of the AOS kind of scenario stuff, is kind of rolled in, which I think they're more interesting scenarios to play and how you score and things like that. That's good. But, I played my first guy, I think Nathan, he had Tau, a bunch of blue Tau, again, kind of the competitive, whatever. I kind of like, they were okay. Like there's a bunch of blue Tau in that. He shot me
like
off the table.
Just blue, or did they have like a second or third color?
There was probably another color on there, but it just looked like blue Tau to me.
Was the basing also blue?
I couldn't tell you. I should probably like. There's probably pictures somewhere. Yeah, I don't. They were pretty blue. I mean, they were.
Nathan, okay. Paint your stuff. Come on.
He tried. He did, and he was like, and he tweaked his thing. But again, fun opponent. It was good. I mean, for that, I mean, we kind of got a good 3 turns in, and then you're kind of starting to run short on time, and then we kind of just talked out the last 2 turns. He had it under control, but I think that one was I don't know, it was about 80 to 60. It's probably the score on that one. But had fun. Second guy, Rick, a lot of fun. I wish we would have played on, had a gorgeous Imperial Guard army. And I was playing my Gene Stealer Cult, who I think I feel like they're decently painted. They look pretty good. So a lot of fun looked really good on the table. If we would have had, if like, I even said it to him, like, yeah, if we would have been playing on it, if this would be a great table, this would really be a really cool, a cool battle like around some of that. But we had a lot of fun. I could not break. He had a lot of armor, and I ended up I tried a couple things to break through, and kind of he did a good nice job of kind of holding off his side, but had a lot of fun playing that. And he used like this our friends at Goonhammer. There's an app for kind of competitive scoring. He had that. We used that to score out the thing. Excellent, made it super easy. So I actually enjoyed like the gameplay itself. Again, I think they have like the 40K tournament kind of locked in. That was fun. The scenarios are good. You can score it. There's interesting things to score. Opponents were good, but whatever, my 6.5 hours of 40K after 2 rounds, I was like, all right, hey, I went over and told him, hey, I'm going to drop. It was fun. Nothing, I had a blast. And then I went and I think I shot you some pictures of me. I went and sat in the hot tub outside at the Grand Geneva Hotel. I had not been in there for whatever 20 years or something like that. Gorgeous, very high-end hotel, gorgeous hotel to wander in there. So yeah, it was, I think I would strongly recommend, playing 2 rounds of tournament and then going and sitting in a hot tub. I think I think that's it. That's how you do it.
I'm telling you, man, there's something here. It's a Friday night narrative or skirmish event. It's a 2-round Saturday, and it's like 1 round Sunday at like 11 to 2, and you're done.
Yep. We got to work that'll be the whatever the BoD competitive, the BoD GT, it's a 3-rounder over the weekend. It's not this 5-round over weekend. We need,
and our terrain will be painted. Man, now I want to go talk to Mark, because I know he does like the AOS, and I want to find out about this 40K gray plastic terrain travesty.
Yeah, and then just as I went around there, so I want to say again, Mark was running the AOS. Guess what? All their terrain is painted, right? There's some nice stuff. I walked around there, especially on Sunday. Dan Bear's sighting, it was nice I didn't realize Dan was down there until I'm like walking, like I see him playing on the table. I'm like, Dan, what are you doing here? So talk to him. I know Dan talks about it on Cubic Shenanigans. His Sylvaneth army is unfrickin' real. Like, seeing that in person, I think you're tired. He's got maybe too much time on his hand, because his army was gorgeous. And like so I'm sure he has some pictures of that stuff in there. But so it's nice to run into Dan and see that too. Although I will say the best terrain at that tournament was the guys playing Star Wars Legion. There was about 10 tables of Star Wars Legion tournament going on. Absolutely. I would even put that above the AOS train, like that Star Wars train. People are just doing really, really cool stuff with that Star Wars Legion. They had some really cool tables. So that for me, those guys kind of won the miniature terrain thing for the weekend, which was pretty cool. So, and that's about it. I mean, there's not a whole lot of vendors there. I mean, Dragonfall is very much a gaming convention yet to go there. I know they're trying to build up some more kind of events and games besides the big tournaments that are there. I think they're still trying to get some traction on that, but I know they're trying to get some
any dealer vendor at all, or
there was a small, again, the guys from Warp Storm had a little booth there. What's the Chicago store? It starts with a G. Grognard's was there. They always run great deals when those guys are there, because they never want to bring anything about home. They always want to just so they're always got everything at 20 to 30% off that there is there.
Does Elric still go there?
I think they were there. I want to say, I believe they also had a booth there too. Yeah, on some of that stuff. Because there was really only, like, you can count on one hand. There was maybe 3 or 4 But those are probably the big ones. I'm trying to think if there was another small booth there, but that was about it. Then their charity always, I mean, they basically call it a charity event because they do a big over the weekend. I don't know what they have, like a dozen different kind of bunches of different kind of miniatures and things like that you can donate to, and then they raffle off at the end of the weekend around some of that stuff. So I think I've gone in there a few things. I really enjoy that scene. It's kind of small enough yet. It kind of feels like, Adepticon 15 years ago in some in some ways. And it's cool to support that group there. So
Cool. And then most recently, Gamehole. Troy made a few hour appearance, wandered around. Josh came up, hung out for an evening and some of the next day, and I was there Thursday through Sunday. Let's talk. Where do we? I want to end on a high note.
You have to start with what you want to start with, because I've been waiting 2.5 hours to hear your take on this.
So, a very generous guy named Ed will buy True Dungeon runs for Magic the Gathering artists. He will supply equipment and tokens, and I don't want this to be negative on Ed or what he does. I think that's really cool. He keeps the treasure tokens you get, but he kind of funds the run. So I was in it for $0. Elena was like, "Do you want to do True Dungeon with Matt and I?" And I think there was mention of Barry. I found out Josh was doing it later. Barry didn't do it, but John Scott did. And I was like, yeah, with friends, it's been 3-4 years since I did a True Dungeon run. Like, it had been a while. It had been Gen Con. I think like pre-COVID Gen Con might have been the last time I ran it. So I tried to put on a happy, let's go have fun. And then I got there, and there was the same aquarium plants and the same wall dressings that they've always had, the same curtains where you walk into a holding room, and then the mats are the same. And I didn't even know what equipment I had. Like, they just have it on an app now with their collection, so you don't even know what you have. You're just told, here's your character. You're given a weapon, the slide. So it was already like a little jarring just for how now with all these powered up like token apps and everything, the GM took 40 minutes to write stuff down. And then that was the last I knew. I knew I was a paladin, and I had guard and I had lay on hands. And we'll talk about how I didn't use that at all. And a weapon puck that I slid. And then you walk into the first room, and it's like, oh no, there's a digital image on a projector screen of the end boss telling you what the encounter is about. And then there's a puzzle room with a pirate in chains, and you don't know really why. And it's the same sail ship with magnet ropes under it that they've had in 3 other True Dungeons before. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not going to go well. And it just kept like the feeling of the set design being the same. Then we fought a monster, and out comes the board with the shuffle pucks, and I'm like, they're not even waxing the tables at this point in time. The GMs are like disappointed that they can't do anything because we're so overgeared and not running it on a high enough difficulty. And then the Spirit Halloween skeleton with like seaweed draped off of him is above you, and I'm like, this is I was like, I'm done. This is stupid. So I think my level of like interest just bottomed out, and there was one cool puzzle that you pushed like some symbols that lit up. But it felt so much like, how can we take all of the fun and excitement out of this experience and just get people through it and give them tokens at the end? Like, I don't know. At one point I walked away from a roll, and I'm like, I fucking hate True Dungeon. And John's like, what did you say? And I'm like, nothing, man. And he's like, yeah, this sucks. like he was feeling kind of the same way I was. Like, this is just zero like engagement. It was, I don't know. It's exactly what made me stop playing, and it reinforced kind of all of the negative experiences I've had along the time. And I tried really hard after a few years of not doing it. I'm like, maybe they made it better. Maybe it's cooler set design and more engaging GMs. And it was like, I miss, you hit. A lot of damage. One more round of combat, done. Oh, you beat the boss. Here's a stick. Go to the next room. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So that was True Dungeon. And we beat the end boss, and there was zero celebration. And it was.
Is this like LARPing, or I'm so confused? I don't know what True Dungeon is.
What?
But are you like actually playing it?
So
think of
Ty,
a shitty escape room.
No, so Ty, you almost have to. Now we have to like somehow bring Bryce so he
No,
can get
never.
the experience.
Bryce, I'm not subjecting you to this.
There is something to say for that first time you go through. Like it is like there is a. I think
not
if you
not
played
in Billy Bob One Leg Pirate Adventure that we did. It was
I don't know.
terrible. So now, Josh, let's hear about your True Dungeon experience.
Sure. Yeah. So part of the problem is Ed, while being a super nice guy and outfitting everyone, didn't engage with anyone about what their class was or what gear they had, or even like it was up until the last minute before we had to go in that he even told us what our HP was. So we couldn't even decide, how much health we had prior to going in. So it was a little, and I think he assumed we had all played before and this was just status quo. And you get that with folks that are like, have played years and years and years and have these giant collections where they just want to like, run the show, right? And that was Ed. And totally fine. I liked Ed. Ed's a nice guy. But for folks that want it to be a little bit more immersive and a little bit more engaging, you kind of want to know what gear you have and you kind of want to, be part of that, right? But it's all Ed's stuff, so the only thing you have is the weapon that you're going to slide, on the shuffleboard
Which
thing.
doesn't even matter.
Right. So since we were so well geared, we played on a level like a step down from where we should have. We should have played it on the hardest because he had all the best gear. Everybody had all the best everything. So we should have played on the absolute hardest, and then maybe it would have been a challenge a little bit. But when I've had the most fun with True Dungeon is when we all kind of okay geared, go in with a little bit of gear here and there, and then we play like above our level, kind of like what we've been doing for Frosthaven. You play above your level, and it's actually kind of fun because there's a chance you could die, right? We just sort of walked through it and did all the puzzles, and so it was like a sort of a themed escape room, kind of like what Ty was saying. So it's kind of a feel bad because there's no risk involved. You never think you're gonna die. You think you're like, we're gonna beat all these monsters. We're gonna beat all the puzzle's the only part that you're like, hey, if we don't figure this out, then maybe we take some damage. But the problem is we had like 4 people that had already done this 3 or 4 times that day, right?
And
So
2 of the 3 puzzles are dexterity challenges, like
yeah, that
lift
too.
foam, put in basket with long rods,
Right.
or maneuver ropes to pull a ship. Where only 3 people need to participate in these puzzles too. You don't need like all 10 people even. It's so
right. I've always liked the ones where I remember there was this one where there was bricks on a wall and there was like runes in a couple of the bricks, and you had to touch them in a certain order and hold your hand there. So and maybe you could reach to a second one, so maybe somebody could get 2, but there was like 20 or there was like 15 or something. So everybody had to pick one, right? and we all had to do it together, and that was sort of fun because we're all working together as a team. The ones we did were sort of, there was max 3 or 4 people working the puzzle, and I don't know, it's not as fun. We had 11 people on our run, and 3 or 4 people are doing the puzzles, and I don't know. It was a little bit of a feel bad. But it was more of a like, hey, we're just walking through this. Like, this isn't challenging. So to me, that was the feel bad. Also, he was sort of adamant about us not, like, I brought my tokens. Like, I brought a build. It wasn't going to be what he brought, right? But I wasn't offered, like, I sort of wasn't allowed to use my tokens. It was all he planned everything, and that's fine. It's his run, he paid for it, right? But that was a feel bad for me, was I couldn't use the tokens that I had collected. So yeah. But
And nothing on the character cards has changed. It's the same 4th or 5th level, like no different abilities, no change in classes or like stat. Like, it's literally everything's the same from 4 years ago.
they've added different types of gear. So there's like shin guards and beads and random other
Wait,
stuff.
they've added ways to commoditize and make more microtransactions to make more money.
This is
and
true,
get-
but I'm just
yeah.
saying, like, it's not fair to say that they didn't change anything, because they have.
The placards, nothing changed on any of the characters available and your stats and your skills. Nothing changed. Your gear, sure, they added slots
Sure. Yeah.
to
That's all I'm
give
saying.
bigger numbers to do more damage and have untouchable ACs.
Right.
But the core mechanic of the system is unchanged.
Sure.
Let's have a True Dungeon debate.
So, Bryce, you should still do it once. You should do it once. I
No.
feel like
so confused.
My
I'm so
recommendation is
confused.
never do
Yeah,
it.
I think I'm
It's
more
not-
confused now.
It is better to go do a high quality escape room for an hour for $40 than it is to do a True Dungeon run. Like, you would be better served in whatever town the convention's
do
at,
it?
going to an escape
Why
room.
did someone pay for people to do it and not do it? Do you like get like rewarded at the end?
yeah, because he gets the
tokens
tokens at
He
the
gets
end.
a chance at pushing the button. Basically, it's a button for treasure. You get this done, you check out, you get your tokens, and you get a chance at getting something that's worth $1,500 on the secondary market.
Yeah, there's a game
okay.
outside the game,
Microtransaction.
Yeah, they're
For
not
sure.
micro, they're macro. Yeah, macro transactions sometimes. So it's
And-
yeah, I mean,
and-
there's a game outside the game. I
So-
mean, that's it. Like the collector part of it, people
So
spend a ton of
what
time.
I'd want to do, and you'd make no money on it because you wouldn't get people through fast enough, because that's the other thing. They're trying to get the most runs and the most people. If somebody did a high quality D&D escape room where you could do skill challenges, you could talk and engage to a handful of NPCs, have the set like prepared well, I'd pay $200 for that versus the $80 that True Dungeon is charging for the experience. Like,
yeah.
that's something that I think would be like real life D&D. True Dungeon is not real life D&D, and I
So-
think that's what it sells itself as.
The one room the one puzzle that you talked about that you liked, right, with the rune, the DM of that room I thought was really good, right? So we met her at the opening of her little hut, and she had like she was supposed to be kind of crazy, right? And she was crazy because of whatever's going on in the room behind you, and you don't know what it is yet, right? And so you kind of walk in, she gives her little spiel, and she was actually a decent actress. And you walk in there, and we're supposed to touch things in the correct order, these little pillars that had what looked like runes on them, but it was actually like you're writing out the words 1 through 10, like stacked on top of each other. And you had to kind of like figure it out, right? It wasn't super obvious right away. But
I'll give you that. She was good.
She was
the
good.
puzzle
Yeah.
was good. But
if they
the
were
DM,
all that room, like that, like if they were all that quality, I feel like it would be a better experience.
but that was 1 of 8.
Right.
Like
I'm
that's the concern. And the
100%.
GM in me, the GM in me that tries to make boss encounters interesting, you don't have to do voices, but make your NPCs like meaningful.
Mhm.
That part of me, when you get to a room and a guy just scrawls on a marker board and says, "Oh, you killed him," like even that, like a little bit of excitement there, or
Yeah, right.
narrative, like setting the tone, changes it. But
For sure.
it's not. It's get through, get the money, get the token,
Yep.
reset, and do it again.
And there are some GMs that like do it even when it's a combat room. Will do an okay job of like, hey, the barbarian swings his axe at the monster's head or whatever. You know, like kind of gives you a little bit of something. Too often they're so focused on how many damage points each person did and marking it down to make sure that, you know, like, and I feel like they need to like loosen that up a little bit and like kind of talk about what's happening a little bit more, because it is, you know, a little bit of theater of the mind, even though we're in this immersive space, right? The shuffleboard kind of takes that away, and you know, it's an okay damage system, right? It is what it is. But they need to talk through like what's happening, who's doing what damage where, and there was a couple DMs that did that, but for the by and large, like I think the majority of the DMs were more focused on, you know, just writing down the numbers and like, okay, you killed the monster, and it's like, well, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna pay
I'm
$90 or whatever it is to tell
that
me that
and
the
that's
monster
it.
dies. Yeah,
That's it. It's
right,
the price point, $800 for a run of 10 people, and
right.
you're getting literally like none of that experience. I'm gonna DM an encounter Thursday night the way that the True Dungeon combat room went, and you guys tell me if you ever want to fucking play D&D with me again, if that's how I'm gonna DM combat.
For free,
Seriously,
and we're not even
seriously,
paying him. You
it's
have to
free,
you
and
have to pay
I'm
$80, and then he's gonna do that, and then you tell him
honest
you're
to
gonna play
God, I'm gonna do an encounter, True Dungeon style,
Right.
and you tell me if you ever want to play D&D with me again.
Right. To the folks that do a good job, kudos to you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, and I think those are the little glimmers where it's awesome, right? And that's why people come back and play. It's the folks that maybe aren't so good, or maybe just they don't have the heart in it at all. And you know, a lot of these folks are volunteers, right? So maybe they need to pony up some money and have some
Yeah.
actual like actors do some of the stuff or something. I don't know what the solution is, but that's the part that where this is where the feel bad for Ty happens, right? Is when they don't really care.
And my run was free. I didn't
Right.
even pay.
Right.
And I was so disappointed. Like if I had paid $80, and that's why I quit doing it at Gen Con, because I got sick of the ever escalating price of this experience that never escalated with the price.
Right.
This was free and it sucked.
Yep.
How about that positive?
I'm
Yeah,
not-
we need to move on. I feel it, but there's a whole there's a whole
and
somebody
this
needs a
isn't
whole
like
blog on
sometimes my negativity is a bit like I try to just like I'm honestly like I was so disappointed. Like I could have sat and had a pizza party with 5 of my dearest friends, and the enjoyment from that would have been 100 times over.
Yeah. So to wrap a little bit of a positive bow on it, the one lady that did that one puzzle room, she was awesome. I thought she did a great job, and if all the rooms were like that, I would think strongly about getting back into it and playing maybe once a con. But there weren't, right? There was maybe 2 or 3, including her, out of the 8 rooms, you know, then just wasn't worth it. So I'm with Ty. I'm not as negative. I would still potentially play again, but I'm glad I sold most of my collection. I'll say that.
I'll sit at the end. You guys go through a 2-hour True Dungeon, and I'll see what encounter I can design in 2 hours, and have you play a 30-minute D&D encounter, and then tell me what's more fun. I'll let you use all the same gear and equipment that you have in these cool tokens,
Nice.
and I'll see if I can do it better. Do an escape room. Don't do True Dungeon. Next topic.
Hard to
I
argue.
think that's the end.
So GameholeCon had some cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And oh yeah, True Dungeon, the last point of note, real quick. They've been doing this for 20 years.
No way. It's really that
20
long.
years
Mm-hmm.
of selling tokens and profit, and the set design is still terrible. Sorry. GameholeCon's really cool though. It is. And True Dungeon didn't sour my whole weekend. It just the 2-hour block. So CubeCon partnered with GameholeCon. I think we all had a chance to walk through there and take a look. It was really cool. They had some streaming set up. I don't know what channel or who was doing the streaming. I don't think it was Wizards. I think it was like CubeCon's own streaming setup. But Josh, do you want to explain the concept of a cube and kind of what variable that is to the Magic experience? Because I know you know it far better than I know it.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, usually a cube is you build a set of Magic cards that sometimes are a theme or sometimes are like all commons or whatever. You kind of pick something that to kind of anchor it around, and then you'll draft out of that set of cards. So so instead of having to buy product every time, you just draft from that cube, and so you deal them out and draft them up, and I don't know, it's kind of a fun experience. It's unique because every cube's going to be different, right? I don't honestly know enough about that, about CubeCon, if they provided the cubes or if fans brought their own cubes or how that worked. But do you guys know?
I think they did it. I know
Okay.
Brian Cole played a big part in it. BK,
Yeah.
Misty Mountain, I think, is his game store in Madison, and some others worked on curating the various cubes, but they were there for drafting. They were running events every few hours. They had some folks like Melissa I think is Del Torre.
Yeah.
She's like senior rules design for Magic these days, and others there that they had do some of the major events and streaming. And it looked like a few hundred people playing Magic, like at all times of day, in that part of the one hall. So
That's awesome.
I think it's a cool partnership. It brings so Elena had her table. She didn't have it Thursday. We helped her set up Thursday night. She was there Friday. After Friday, she's like, this was one of the Gamehole guys when we're coming in. Let's her, and he was like, you're going to be like, you should walk through. It's going to be like a celebrity sighting, because she's now a known commodity going to Magic events, and she's like, featured artist and stuff. Friday night, she's like, yeah, I made more today than I have at any GameholeCon I've been to. Like, because her cards and the Magic players coming through and getting cards signed and like the prints of her new stuff, like, just out of control. So she was super busy Friday at her table selling art. But it was Magic hasn't been a huge presence at Gamehole before they kind of this partnership with CubeCon. So it was neat to see another community in Gamehole. And Gamehole is maxed out on space. Like it didn't feel crowded really still, like even though they did good numbers. But that Alliant Energy Center or whatever, the convention center in Madison, from a footprint, they don't really have any more room to go out. So be interesting to see over the next couple of years if the attendance keeps, because that was the other thing. They don't publish numbers until after, and they're never really focused on numbers. But the guy told us Thursday night, he's like, our pre-registration is as high as total attendance from last year. And last
That's
year,
crazy.
granted, you're coming out of COVID, but that was pre-reg, was higher than total attendance from the year prior.
Yeah, and they even had RPG tables, like actual ticketed events, out in the hallways, like
Yeah.
the main walkways, and I was like, oh wow, like they're using every possible bit of space, which is good for them, like that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I worry about like what happens in the future, like if they get too big, like where do they go, right? But I awesome problem to have, so good for them.
Yeah, 10 years they've grown from, what were they in, the Sheraton across the street to start, Ty,
Yep.
right? Remember when we
First 2 years they were at the Sheraton. Then they had half of it because the other half was a youth
Yeah.
dance competition for a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's cool to see it grow in the 10 years that we've been going.
But yeah, it's a great role playing. This year I didn't do any ticketed events or seminars, but they're always doing seminars. There's a ton of streamed games to raise money for stuff. They've got Milcog, the Milwaukee Company of Gamers board game library, where you can go and check out a game and kind of get a table and play with friends. Food trucks are always outside. Have some good food truck meals. But I know we've talked about just Gamehole in general, but Alex and his crew run just a really, really good convention, inclusive, like high energy staff, great volunteers.
And to be fair, you did run one ticketed event.
I'm not counting that.
I'm just saying.
No RPG sessions. No. Let me put it this way: I didn't play any games. I went on a
Ooh.
walking tour of dark curtains and aquarium plants. But yeah, vendors. Let's talk vendors that we saw. I think Troy, you picked out.
Yeah, because that's all I did is I went and shopped for 3 hours or 4 hours, however long I was there. But I always think I love they kind of curate a really good, right, hall, kind of vendor hall. They always get a little some different people that are. You kind of have some. Well, you even have the table people who are my name. Like we've been doing this too long. Wormwood, yeah, like Wormwood shows up around that. The people I ran into is their Noble Dwarf I think I saw him there last year. Do some really cool stuff where I think they license art from different independent artists, and their big thing is they print on this really kind of archival canvas. So you get these really cool like maps and different kind of pieces of art, and that they print on all kinds of different sizes of canvas that they sell, and they're really cool. Like if you're playing D&D in person, you could like literally have this actual map on this really cool old canvas that they kind of do, which is really cool. And they have a lot of art. I ran there and I saw they had these really cool kind of custom books that they did. I will save it maybe until I get it. But super cool. I think I bought myself a Christmas present around there, but just it's really cool stuff that they do with that. And then we discovered, again, Elena's still always our favorite artist, but we ran into Lindsay Burkar, who actually we found out is from Milwaukee. Check out her stuff. I think we bought stickers from her for now, but mostly because there was she has some dragons and that are it blew me away on that. And it was kind of cool to when we talked to her, she was like, oh yeah, I'm just in Milwaukee. And we told her, well, she should come to Midwinter and show off her stuff. So I'm sure I will buy something from her at some point in the future, but it was, that's always fun to discover new artists and new things at some of these things. But yeah, her dragon art and mats and different, and even her bear, like some really cool stuff. And then I was reading on her thing. She has a pretty cool story too around the mat. So check her out. Lindsay Burkar. I'll put the link in there.
So Paul and Quinn, Anvil 8 Games, DK family members were there. They had a table set up with Ethereum and Refrigerator Girl, and then Paul created kind of a little folder of character sheet and quick start rules, and a monster from the new game Pillars. He's been working on it for a couple of years, working on developing that, helping him out where I can with playtests and other stuff. But and he ran 3 sessions, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That I saw some new people pop into the Discord, the playtest Discord, and stuff, which is always cool to see somebody join after playing a game. So I know they were there, kind of doing their thing. Stop by a couple times, say hi, check in. What else was there? The game stores. Purchase, Josh. I mean, did you escape without buying anything?
I did. Yeah, I did a quick spin through, but I didn't actually buy anything. So
You didn't get a pillow cube ooze?
it was cute, but yeah, no, I passed.
Man. I got home. Landon was like, "This is amazing." He's like, "This is the best plush that they've done," because I've bought each and every one that they've made. And he's like, "This is so cool." And then what I realized, I didn't realize it when I had it in the plastic. It's actually a dice. So there's one sword on the one side, a sword and a skull. The symbols on each side. It's a 6-sided dice.
Oh, that's great. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's cool.
I found it cool. There was a maker that it was all of Tim Burton's characters, like very, I don't know what, almost like chibi style animation, like on, so Nightmare Before Christmas and Beetlejuice and everything on like a little purse. And Nicole's a big Halloween and spooky season fan, so got her that. And I bought one of Elena's prints. She had one of her signed limited. I don't know what forest it's from, but it's like a forest with light shining down. There's some animals with like fire paws in the clearing. So that'll be added to our basically most of our art upstairs is all Elena Danner prints and stuff. So
Awesome.
any other Gamehole Con thoughts? I'll be back for year 11. Like it's the Airbnb and the hangout is kind of what I go for, but it's also a cool convention. And I always say it would be fun to probably run a game there, like, get to that side of the fence. But yeah, GameholeCon. Date set. They announced the date for 24. So get on it. Trail run Space Hulk there.
Zombicide probably. I've run Zombicide there in the past. Might do it again.
All right. Next up, Holy Havoc for Bryce and I. Events coming up. We're in that kind of lull between when things are really busy and where things get really busy again in the spring. But we got Holy Havoc coming up in what is Naperville, technically, Chicago suburbs, November 10th through the 12th. Then we got Midwinter Gaming Convention out in the Waukesha area, right across the street from Troy, at the whatever they're calling that hotel these days. That hotel,
Angle something, yeah.
Angleside,
yeah.
And that's January 11th through the 14th. Then Holy Wars, Herner's other event, which is also, he's been doing team events for both of them now. First weekend in February. I think likely the same place. I don't know if he's got the location pinned down.
It's in 2 years now, I think you said.
And then Adepticon's right around the corner, end of March.
Less than 5 months.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And then, we set our sights on BoDCon in the second week in July. All right. Any other events that I missed? I think that's our list.
Weekender?
Oh, yeah. We have a weekender. Raph is joining us. We're going to play some games early December at an Airbnb somewhere in central Wisconsin. Not up north because it's south of Bryce. And but yeah, so should be a good time in December. Get some games played. I'm sure we'll update in our next recording some of the hobby projects we've got in line. There's been some talk about some Crisis Protocol, maybe a RPG one shot, some other stuff. So Good stuff. Other than that, this is YouTube or a podcast, so you can subscribe, download, do all that stuff. YouTube, you can click like and subscribe, or no, subscribe and like. They're around the bottom. Look for them, you'll find them. Josh is pointing to them. And then Twitter at Playin Slayin Show. As long as, or I'm sorry, do I have to call it X?
Yeah.
I haven't
don't know.
updated the app on my phone yet, so it's still Twitter for me.
You still have a bird?
Yep, I still have a bird. The day it turns X, I'm done. Or the day he starts actually charging new users $1 for access, I'm done. Basementofdeath.com. Troy has all sorts of Space Hulk goodness. His 40K Horus Heresy reading list, amongst other things there. And, all of our names at basementofdeath.com for email. Bryce was just talking about how intern at basementofdeath.com never gets email, and he needs something to do during the day to talk to people and know that you're all real and that we're not just talking into a computer monitor. Yeah. Any final thoughts for episode 74?
I think you nailed it.
I promise to be positive. Episode 75 is positivity.
We will.
So
yes, we will bring back the positivity.
We're gonna main topic things that are good and wholesome and positive, because we'll probably be coming out of Havoc. So it's gonna be like Bryce and I are like riding this hobby friendship wave, and it'll be great. It'll be great. I won't do any True Dungeon between now and then, and I won't read any more Brandon Sanderson. So it will be positivity.
Look for those bonus episodes where we do debate, everything about True Dungeon and Brandon Sanderson. We should do as a double header. Like that'll just be here's 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours of
I wouldn't wish that upon my greatest enemy.
Oh, no, that's the bonus content. People have to pay for that. People
Our
have
Patreon.
Our Patreon that doesn't exist, but if they could play for it, that's what they'll be able to get there. Yeah. All
right, friends. Well, thank you for joining us. Keep on, playing games. Tell us about it. And in the meantime, keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying.